Okay, I'm trying this again, and I'm hoping it's going to work this time around. Omar. So Omar, are you going to try to join in now? Okay, I'm gonna try this. Oh boy.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Oh,
But that
hear
one
you
is
now.
not me. That one is you. Fix your phone.
Let me. DJ. Alright. Did it. Before out. Do it. Come on, this way. Don't put it there. Send me.
Hello, sir.
Are they going to pay our money? Are they going to pay our money?
Have you seen before we start, have you seen the UDP press release?
Oh, that is a new press release from the UDP. I haven't seen that one yet.
Seen that
Today?
one yet. Okay, I think it just came out now.
Okay. Maybe you can put us through that. So you had actually, started highlighting what the discussion is going to be on. Probably we can just retake that because probably not everybody is going to follow the initial one that we had to put out to get this one on again.
Can you put your volume up a bit?
No, that's the maximum a volume can go. You can't hear me clearly?
I can, but it's just faint. But maybe others can hear you.
Yeah, most times it's the two that are talking that might have those issues, but then the audio.
But can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly, yeah. Quite clearly. Oh, it's a crazy week. Just sorry, man. I popped in late. I just got back and then got some packages that I had like my neighbor.
Can you just ask the audience if they can hear you clearly? So I just know it's not me alone that is struggling to hear you. Because remember the same thing happened the last time, and then when you went off and came on again, that it was really loud and quiet.
Yeah.
But just ask them, and if they can hear you, then that's fine.
I'm sure they're able to get that we're asking the question. Hello, can somebody just respond? Hopefully that makes it better for all of us. I'm not seeing any comments coming through though. Probably they can't hear me, or they can't hear you, or they can't hear us both. But I doubt. Can you see the comments from your end? Because I'm not able to see
Yeah, I
any.
can see the comments. They said they can hear both of us loud and clear.
Oh, how
Bakari
come that?
just said loud and clear.
Oh
Usman
yeah,
Janneh,
oh yeah. Now I can
Lamin
get that.
Sabali, they said we're both loud and clear.
Good. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be back here again and to continue these conversations that we are having. You know, they're quite intermittent, not really fixed or scheduled as per, you know, a fixed date or so on. What do you want me to do? That's your problem. You just want to be doing everything. Sorry. Your friend is here. This your friend is trouble.
She's a freedom fighter. She fights for her rights.
Are you fighting against Batamedu or fighting for Batamedu? But like Mel, to start with, you know, you've seen how, you know, things have taken, you know, a twist and turns happening, you know, allegations and counter allegations, people who were working together now becoming, you know, antagonists. And, you know, we've seen, you know, government pointing at the commission, you know, through its information minister. We've seen the president say, oh, I haven't received this kind of, you know, sales report indicating that the commission probably did not submit that. But we have also seen in the white paper that the government of the Gambia tried to promote and, of course, commend the good job that the commission had done. And now it all looks like the commission did either a good or a bad job. What has the commission done? But then prior to that, you know, you've seen the twist and turn. What exactly is it? What is your take around everything that is, you know, unfolding?
Okay, so basically, I had okay. Let's do this, Omar. 1 second. I'll just go through this. So basically, this is the sequence I had. Just hold on a second. So I said, one, we're gonna discuss the cease and desist letter from Amie Bensouda to Alhagie Kurang. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm getting you.
And then two, we're going to do Ismailia Ceesay, Information Minister's utterances by way of clarification on several issues surrounding the Janneh Commission and disposal of assets.
Right.
And then I've got rebuttal of the Manding King with regards to allegations of him being an informal valuer of cattle belonging to former President Jammeh. And then lastly, I had ongoing trial of Ousainou Bojang and Co, dubbed Who Killed the Cops. But now let's look at this and tell me which one you're most comfortable with, and we'll start it in that order.
We can go with any of them. We can pick up from any of them.
Okay,
any of them would do.
I want to leave the Ousainou Bojang trial for last, because I know you're always very passionate about that one.
Yeah,
and
that would
right
do.
after you get on that, your blood pressure might be really high, so you might need to just take a chill pill.
That's right.
Okay, so can we do the cease and desist letter first, and then go, you know, subsequently deal with the commission by way of, we could look at the commission, the issues of the commission and the Janneh white paper, and then look at the utterances of the statements made by Dr. Ceesay on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. What do you think about that order?
Yeah, that order works. That works.
Say that again?
That's perfect.
Okay, so take on. Let's hear your views on the cease and desist letter from Amie Bensouda to Alhagie Kurang.
So if I am to really say something about this letter that I read from Amie, you know, I would have to look at things first from my own perspective of, you know, how things began and how Amie got involved into the commission. And historically, we're talking about Yahya Jammeh. What was Amie's relation to Jammeh and how, you know, we got to the point where we are today. Now, first, I hold the belief that, personally, that Amie Bensouda was not, in my views, the person to actually lead any commission of inquiry that has to do with Yahya Jammeh, because this is first a former Yahya Jammeh minister. In my view, if you worked and dealt with Yahya Jammeh in a way, you cannot be the most impartial person to investigate Yahya Jammeh. Because here is a person who was one time an ally of Yahya Jammeh, and later was more or less like, either a victim or probably, fired by Jammeh in a way. So if you were a minister for Yahya Jammeh and at one point Yahya Jammeh fired you, or you had an issue at one point with the commission that had to do with tax evasion, then I don't think, that's a person who would give an impartial investigation or probably lead proceedings that have to do with Jammeh's assets and materials he would have owned. Now, but that is, subjected to, that is probably not objective. It could be subjective on the basis that that is my own feeling. But coming, close to what exactly happened with Kurang. Kurang has been very consistent on, Amie Bensouda. To be fair to both of these people, he who alleges definitely bears the burden of proof. And Kurang have said a lot, insinuating a lot. And sometimes you don't say things directly to a particular person. What you do is you just throw tantrums out there, and then people with minds will begin to think, are you insinuating this or are you insinuating that? So most of the things that I saw Kurang writing mostly give people, that opinion to direct a particular thought towards a particular person. Now, if this person feels the need that after several years they want to go to court for determination, I think if you have, real allegations and you definitely know that this is true, there shouldn't be any problem with that. The timing I have a problem with, because it came at a time when we clearly know, Gambians know that on the whole, everything that Kurang was saying actually is true. So I give Kurang the benefit of the doubt that he was the first person who came out to say that something is fundamentally wrong in this commission. But again, Kurang was the person who was selling the assets, and Kurang had no right whatsoever to sell the assets because the commission had no mandate to sell the asset. You cannot actually give interim orders to sell the asset and go again be the same person executing your own orders. Now, Kurang has said a lot about Amie. That's very true. But Amie has the right to protect her integrity. That's another thing that people got to give her. Now, if Amie feel like going to court, it was simple. Write to Kurang. You've said this and that about me. I am actually suing you to court if you don't do this and that and that. But the letter did not stop there. If you read through it, the letter went on to tell us what Kurang was doing terribly bad in the commission, or allegedly. Amie's document from her lawyers did not only caution Kurang and tell him stop this or go and actually remove these particular postings or apologize to me, but it went on in bullet 9, 10, and 11 to tell what Kurang was doing in the commission. Now, this document also exposed the government of the Gambia, specifically the office of the president, that said they had no involvement whatsoever. But the document said that the office of the president had told them to stop the sale of the tractors. That means the government was interfering. Means office of the president was interfering. That was bullet 9 of Amie's document. And if you look at the other bulletins that he put, 10 and 11, 10 and 11 was not about suing Kurang to court, was about telling Kurang what Kurang was doing wrong in the commission. So if Kurang was really doing all those dubious acts in the commission, why didn't the Gambia government sue Kurang to court for all the dubious acts they are now alleging in Amie's document? The Gambia government told us that they were not involved in anything that had to do with the commission, but the Amie's document came out to tell us that the Gambia government told us to cease the sale of the tractors, and they were telling us to, consider vulnerable communities. But what do they consider as vulnerable communities? First, the Gambia government know that these tractors were retrieved from farmers. And these are the vulnerable people who are involved in agriculture. Now you take tractors from poor farmers and then you come to sell them amongst yourself, and then all of a sudden the government had to tell you to stop and probably consider vulnerable communities. I do not understand that. It was the same government at the same time that was giving donkeys and donkey carts to farmers. So for me, the Amie's document had two purposes: to tell Kurang stop or we go to court, and equally to inform Gambians about the bad things that Kurang was actually doing in the commission. So you can take it up from there.
Okay. So quite interesting pointers. So first, let's look at the legality surrounding the cease and desist letter. So a cease and desist letter is a formal request that is sent from one party to another. Mostly it's from the person that's being, or that feels that they're being defamed, writing to the person that is allegedly defaming the individual to actually cease and that is to stop whatever it was that they were doing. So it's really like the start of like it. So a cease and desist letter does not have the force of the law. It is not issued by a court. Okay, so it does not have anything. It does not have any legal weight per se within the parameters of the law. It can come in very handy once legal proceedings have commenced, because they can use the cease and desist letter to show, you know, that the individual had been given ample time to and that legal action was a last resort, basically. So that's the whole purpose of it, to show that legal action was indeed a last resort, and they tried. Because when you're given a cease and desist letter, you have quite few options. The first option is to entirely respect the request of the cease and desist letter, and that is to stop whatever it was that you're doing, stop defaming the person and not, you know, mentioning all the things that they're saying, and also the cease and desist letter would usually come with certain conditions, and one of the conditions that I saw in the letter with from Amie Bensouda to Kurang, or from Amie Bensouda's lawyers, is that Alhagie Kurang should issue a public apology, and also he should retract, like take down all his posts and alleged accusations on social media. So the first thing is, when you're given a cease and desist letter, the first option is to actually obey the contents of the letter, the request. The second one is to respond to the letter. So Kurang can respond to the letter. Either, of course, logically, you would not expect that he would respond to the letter accepting the issues that have been raised, that he's actually, you know, defaming Amie Bensouda. So you would expect that a letter from Kurang would be a rebuttal to the defamation. So that's the second option. The third option is for Kurang to do nothing. That is, ignore the letter altogether in its entirety and just do absolutely nothing. So these are the three options that you have when you have a cease and desist letter, basically. One, you cease and you desist. Two, you respond to the allegations contained therein in the letter by vehemently, rejecting that whatever your actions are is causing da 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 da. And then the third one, actually, there's a fourth option, and that's the fourth option is the negotiation option. That is the parties can negotiate. So that's the fourth option. The parties can negotiate. They can come together, amicably look at both, both the letter and whatever has been going, and negotiate. So these are the four options. Now, so if you look at the letter, like you rightly said, well, we need to establish two things here. And I like these things because it's always a teachable moment. The first thing to establish is that Amie Bensouda is a lawyer who understands the law, understands the legal process. So she did not only, this cease and desist letter is very different from what you would see. So this is not the common cease and desist letter, because in the letter, she is also accusing Kurang. And when you look at that substantively, Kurang could also raise an issue of defamation. Okay? Or libel, as the case may be. Okay? Kurang can raise that. So you could have what you call, there could be a counterclaim. So if that matter goes to court, there is, well, in England it's done every day. You could, there could be a counterclaim in that matter, because remember, this letter that was sent to Kurang, I am sure, I don't know, it could well be that Kurang leaked the letter into the public domain. It could be. No, well, I'm not gonna hold brief for Kurang.
What I'm telling you is where the letter came from.
No,
and where it
we
was from,
we wouldn't be able to tell.
And the intent and purpose in the language in which it is written, you can easily tell where it actually leaked from.
No, but then that is you assuming. You are assuming. Now, I'm looking at it from two different angles, okay? Let's play the devil advocate here. Kurang, are you getting me? So Kurang understands that this is a public interest matter. The entire Gambia is interested in what happened in the Janneh Commission. So this is not your usual Amie Bensouda to Kurang issue. This is a public issue. This is a public interest matter. There's no way you can take it away from it. So when you look at that letter, even though it's got the content of personal, like a personal matter between Amie Bensouda and Alhagie Kurang, but the basis of that document, which when any court is going to look at the issue of defamation and or libel or whatever it is in that content, the court cannot divorce the fact that whatever it is that is being alleged was derived of a public entity, as in these two individuals served in the Janneh Commission, and the substantive defamation content stemmed from the acts of the commission. So even though it is an individual basis, this is Amie Bensouda versus Kurang, but Kurang served as secretary to the commission, Amie Bensouda was the lead counsel to the commission. Whatever is being alleged by Kurang, which would amount to defamation if it is proven in a court of law, is also a subject of the commission. So taking that into context, you could begin to understand why Alhagie could also, even though the letter is addressed to Alhagie, but Alhagie could also leak that letter into the public domain, because Alhagie knows that there is so much sympathy out there, there is so much public interest out there in the Janneh Commission, and there is anger towards the Janneh Commission. Now, your point is also plausible, that Amie Bensouda believes she has been allegedly defamed. It could either come from Amie Bensouda, it could come from Amie Bensouda's lawyers, it could come from people that have close proximity or that are in close proximity to Amie Bensouda. And if you look at the contents of the letter, I'm kind of being distracted by looking at you. I don't know who you're making faces at. Just leave the girl alone. Leave the girl alone.
This girl wouldn't focus on her TV. The only thing she hates to say is,
yeah, just leave her, man. Leave her, because you're distracting me when you're making faces at her.
I'm just trying to change the TV for her. That's just it.
Okay. But so the point I was trying to make is, now, it could come from, the letter could be leaked into the public domain. It could come from Amie Bensouda's quarters, as in like Amie Bensouda herself. It could come from the lawyers of Amie Bensouda. It could come from people who are in close proximity to Amie Bensouda. It could be a strategy, actually. But if you look at the contents of the letter, some of the issues raised in that letter was actually meant for the public. Because I'm certain what was done in that letter is to remind Alhagie Kurang of what happened in the commission. So what was said to Alhagie Kurang in that letter, I presume, is nothing new to Alhagie Kurang, because you could tell that these were issues raised in the commission before the firing of Kurang. So Kurang was already aware of this. Sorry, I'm just waiting for Omar, because I'm having a conversation with Omar, and the way we're doing this live video today is like me and Omar are having a conversation, but we're hoping that the audience would benefit from our conversation and our back and forth and our debate. We're going to look at things in depth.
Come on up.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, two things are at play. So one, it could be that Kurang wanted the issue of whatever transpired in the commission to come out into the public domain, or it could be that the lawyers of Bensouda, based on the instruction of Bensouda, are wanting the people to understand that this man is not as clean as he's claiming or alleging to be. So, for example, they raised several issues in that letter, and those issues are serious. They raised issues of financial discrepancies. They raised issues of untallied books and accounts. They raised issue of unjustified spending of the commission's funds. They raised issue like of unjustified fuel allocation. They raised issues of the fact that the commission has given specific instructions with regards to the valuation of the cattle and or tractors. So these are serious allegations. So to be honest, if you look at it, the allegations of Kurang against Bensouda are open innuendos. So Kurang would come on social media and Kurang would say, "Oh, don't you think Kerfatu should speak to Amie Bensouda?" Kurang would come and tell you, "Oh, don't you think the lady in the commission that now is the largest real estate dealer should be spoken to?" And Kurang could come. So Kurang was sending shots. It was never a direct. I don't know how to explain this. It's playing in my mind. It's never. So for example, I never saw anywhere that Kurang said Amie Bensouda was corrupt. I may be wrong. Maybe it's out there. So for example, I just saw a post today which I think is very grave, and that was making reference to the murder of Koro Ceesay. And Kurang was saying, but maybe Koro was not killed because of the 35 million that you guys are talking about. Did you speak to Amie Bensouda, who knows things about the oil saga? Now, if you look at that squarely from a legal point of view, with devoid of emotions, it is not saying that Amie Bensouda knew why Koro died. He is saying that Amie Bensouda is aware of dealings that could have led to the death of Koro that is different from the 35 million. Now, with the counter letter, with the defamation cease and desist letter from Amie Bensouda, these were direct allegations. They were saying to Kurang, but this issue was raised, you never accounted for X, Y, and Z. The monies that you allocated for refreshments was exorbitant. We don't understand it. So you see the difference. These are direct, tangible things that Amie Bensouda raised in her letter. Now, I'll tell you where it gets interesting. Because whilst the public is taking the utterances of Kurang and raising questions on the commission, nobody is asking Kurang to rebut direct rebuttals of those allegations. I was watching to see whether I'll see a caption from Kurang saying, but I did this and this and this with regards to the fuel coupon. I did X, Y, and Z. Here's the document. This is what I did with the discrepancies that they raised. We didn't see that. So when you look at it,
we didn't see that yet.
Well, we're talking everything we're saying, everything we're speaking now, hypothetically, is yet. We haven't seen it yet. Yeah. I'm not going to address issues of the future. I'm not a soothsayer. Because I don't have futuristic things. So we're looking.
I think it's just been a little over 24 hours.
Yes. So we're looking, but a little over 24 hours ago, with such letter that has got such magnitude, the effect was really serious.
But I don't know. But Kurang has done a lot more.
No. Let's get this straight. Let me establish this. I'm not saying this to take sides.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Maybe he's preparing himself.
I'm looking at the legalities. I'm looking at the issues. And I'm looking at the way public interest is swaying on both sides. Yeah. Is it equitable? There's nothing. Kurang has never said Amie Bensouda stole X, Y, and Z. He's never said that. What he did was he's punching holes into the report to say that the report is not as it is. Now, I'll give you something. So we haven't seen, with regards to the allegations raised in the cease and desist letter, like you said, not yet. So we're dealing with everything that has happened thus far.
Yeah.
We have not seen a robust rebuttal of those allegations raised. We haven't seen it. Now, but when you look at Amie Bensouda's letter, she offered an absolute rebuttal, which I have always said that Amie Bensouda is not the commission. And the commission is not Amie Bensouda. Amie Bensouda was the lead counsel, but the commission was made up of commissioners,
right,
who swore and took oath of office to dispense their job, their terms of reference, in a manner that is just and fair and according to law. However, you cannot, and this is what I see that is happening, which I don't agree with. You cannot put all the blame, all the shortcomings, all the pitfalls of the commission on Amie Bensouda alone. Amie Bensouda was not the principal of that commission. It was Surahata Janneh. He was the chair. It is Janneh Commission. This is his commission. Just like you had the Alhagie Commission, just like you had the Mama Fatima Singate Commission. This was his commission. This was his baby. Amie Bensouda was the lead counsel. Now, for me, it is ludicrous to blame Amie Bensouda entirely for the actions of the commission. The commission is an entity, and the commission must be held to account holistically. Every single commissioner, every single individual that took part in that commission failed the Gambian people as it stands now. But what I don't agree with is picking out Amie Bensouda. But I'll also tell you the reason why I wrote a public letter to Amie Bensouda is because the questions that are being raised are not Kurang's question alone. The questions that are being raised by the commission are legitimate questions that every Gambian is asking. Now, even though Amie Bensouda has the legal standing and legal right to go after any single individual that seeks to defame her, but she also owes an obligation to the Gambian people. I think I should wait for Omar, right, guys? Let me take a break and wait for Omar, so that, because I don't want him to lose the gist of what I'm saying, so that we could have a more interesting debate. And now I'm seeing comments. I'm seeing very interesting comments that Amie Bensouda hijacked the commission and made it hers, and Bas supported her. So basically, these are arguments, but then the truth is, these are arguments that don't really hold much water, because regardless of what Amie Bensouda, or what you people would allege that Amie Bensouda did within the life of that commission, it still does not make it right. The commission is still the commission. It's not her commission. It's the Janneh Commission that had commissioners sitting.
that's right.
So basically, let's just wait for Omar to come.
No, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Mel? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. I don't know if the audience can hear you. I'm struggling to hear you.
Can't hear me at all? Harama board ki comme Gambia nu ñoo boté xalé. then we can get on, you know.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So basically, you know, so basically, yes, even though I have never seen, I don't know if you have seen, okay, anywhere that Kurang actually attacked the credibility of the commission. It's always against Amie Bensouda. Now, for example, when you raised the issue, we talked about this, and I said to you, this is an issue, and you said you're going to raise it with him. And I saw your post. When you raised the issue with him, what did he say? He said, ask Amie Bensouda. But that was an unfair statement because Amie Bensouda is not the commission. The order from the commission that he claimed to have was not an order from Amie Bensouda. Amie Bensouda was in no place to give an order. So what Kurang said there was dishonest. That is not factual. Amie Bensouda cannot give an order. Amie Bensouda did not give an order. The order came from the commission. The commission is the body that is mandated to make interim orders, not Amie Bensouda. So who gave Kurang that order? It is the commission. But when you speak to Kurang, Kurang would tell you, ask Amie Bensouda.
Yeah, that was exactly what he told me. But what I understand from Amie's document is that Amie's document was not only looking at, you know, telling Kurang let's go to court, but it was also in a way defaming Kurang. And
No, hang on. That what you just said is not a legal language.
Okay.
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on.
But if Kurang now says that this document...
wait, hang on, let me clarify that.
Okay.
Amie Bensouda, you see, defamation is solid, the full and undiluted defense for defamation is speaking truth. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if you say she is allegedly defaming Kurang, assuming that what she has raised in that letter is not factual and cannot be backed by evidence. However, if you look at the letter, these were copy and paste things that was done. These were documents that was extracted.
How can we conclude?
She made, look at the letter you sent me again. She made reference to correspondences. And that is why I said these were things that were already raised. She made reference to correspondences. Read the letter again. Or if you want, I can do it. Just like for Kurang, Amie Bensouda's cease and desist letter is just a letter. She is alleging that she's being defamed. But it is also possible. Hang on, Omar. Okay. It is also possible that what Kurang is saying is backed by truth, and he can substantiate the allegations, and then it wouldn't amount to defamation.
Now, wait for me to finish here. What I meant is that Amie Bensouda's document did not stop at telling Kurang, I will take you to court, or you have to withdraw this and that. But it went further to make allegations.
Yes.
And those allegations would suggest that somebody who made these gross allegations is not just reminding Kurang of what would have happened within the commission, but want Gambians to know that Kurang also had done something like this and that. Yes. Because if that letter was specifically for just Kurang, Kurang would have known already what he had done. So but I'm explicitly mentioning this point by point. It is evident that this letter was not meant for only Kurang, but also for public to have an understanding of some of the things that would have happened or wouldn't have happened within the commission. Now, if Kurang now said that this document went viral and some of the things mentioned in there were not true, they are not actually reflective of what happened within the commission, and then I will consider them a defamation of my character into the public domain in a document that was sent to me by Amie Bensouda's, lawyers. That's very possible too.
I said that, yeah.
And then, that's what I'm telling you. Then the onus will now depend on Kurang to, justify his allegations against Amie Bensouda. And of course, Amie to also justify, allegations against Kurang with evidence.
No, but what you said was defamation, and I'm saying defamation is only proven in a court of
That's what
law.
I'm telling you. Kurang can claim that too, just like Amie is claiming.
Yeah, but that's what we said. That's what we said.
So you should have let me finish. That's exactly where I'm actually pointing.
No,
I'm
you
not
said
saying
Amie. No. What I'm correcting is what you said, that Amie is defaming Kurang.
I'm trying to tell you that Kurang can consider Amie's document as a defamation.
No, that's not what you said. You said Amie Bensouda is defaming Kurang.
No, but if you stop me in the middle of a conversation, then it's difficult to actually get my entire
No,
point.
I'm saying that because I'm saving you from a 200 million lawsuit.
Saving who?
You.
Amie Bensouda can take me to a $3 trillion lawsuit. I'm not Kurang.
What are you going to do?
I am not Kurang in a sense that you people cannot be giving taxpayers money. At the end of the day, they go and do that kind of a thing there, and they feel like they're too big to be questioned. No. What I'm trying to say is, if you let me finish my entire statement, because in the middle of it, I said that could amount to defamation. Kurang too could say that Amie Bensouda had defamed me in this particular document, and that document was not specifically meant for just Kurang. It was meant for the public in a way that it was written. It was written to tell Kurang, point 1, 2, 3, you had to do this and that, and then this is what we expect you to do. But it went on to tell Kurang, you have done this bad, you have done that bad. But let's be honest here. If Kurang had done all of those things terribly, and Kurang had came out to different TV stations to say this commission was investigating me to a point that if they knew I had done any single thing wrong, they would have jailed me. Kurang said that in a TV platform. So if Amie Bensouda knew that Kurang was doing a lot of these wrongs, and then the commission knew that Kurang was actually doing all these wrongs, and the commission never raised a question against Kurang, but Ambedu told us that he had to even beg Kurang to resign honorably, so that he actually protects his image. And if Amie is now telling us that Kurang was doing something terribly bad in that commission, and the commission never raised it, and Kurang was never subjected to any punishment for those wrongdoings, then that also raises more questions on Amie and the entire commission than only Kurang. Let's be honest here. If Amie is now alleging that Kurang was doing all of those things mentioned, man, if you do that to me, or you do that to a commission I set up, I will lock you up.
No, you can't be listen, you can't be emotional. Let's get this. No, let's get back to base.
We're not being emotional.
No, you are being
honest.
We are
looking at this document.
Yeah.
If the document tells you Kurang did this and that were wrong in the commission,
yeah.
What stopped the commission?
So don't be emotional. Listen, don't be emotional. If you're emotional, we're not gonna have an objective conversation.
But the conversation around things actually, get up and down.
But
what I'm
just try to calm it down, because if you get very emotional, we won't be objective, and then the program is just going to be one-sided. It's not going to be interesting.
I am not in for Amie Bensouda, not in for Kurang. I have always said that Kurang was just insulting me a couple of days ago. You remember?
Well, he did that to me.
I'm in for what is right, and what is right in this sense is that if Amie would tell us that Kurang this wrong and that, then what was the commission? What has the commission done about what Kurang did wrong before they fired him? So if the commission did nothing about what Kurang did, or all the wrongs Amie mentioned in her document that Kurang was doing that in the commission, then something was fundamentally wrong.
But then what I disagree with you, it was not the responsibility of Amie Bensouda to charge Kurang for anything.
No, but Amie Bensouda, including the entire commission, because he's part of the commission.
So the commission.
No, when I say Amie now is the one that wrote this letter, I'm now saying that what did the commission do? I'm not saying what did Amie do.
Well, what Amie Bensouda did, with all fairness to Amie Bensouda, I'm not holding brief for Amie Bensouda, but what Amie Bensouda did was to actually bring, put it into the public domain that if it's either she continues to serve as lead counsel or Kurang continues to serve as secretary, and that the head of state would have to make a decision on both of these appointments.
So that already tells us that these two people, they have animosity between them.
Yes, absolutely.
So the fight is not about the commission, it's personal. Their issues are not primarily just the commission, but it's like it goes beyond the commission, it's personal. So Kurang was writing a lot about insinuating that this woman is doing that, this woman is doing that, but now the woman came directly to say, Kurang, you did this, you did that within the commission, and the commission looked into this and this and this and that, and you went and sell something to Amidu Jah or whatever, Jah oil in this and that way, which were quite fraudulent. So in that case, what did the commission do to Kurang? Probably nothing. So if today those allegations are coming out, it actually sends a signal to some of us that indeed in the commission there were things that were going wrong there. You get my point?
Yeah, but that is, yeah, absolutely. That is not in
Right.
question that, you know, the commission, things have
And
gone on in the
do
commission. That's what we all have been saying from day one,
do
that
you
things in
equally
the
agree?
commission went in a way and manner that was not properly done.
Do you equally agree that it is also possible that Kurang can use Amie Bensouda's document to actually claim issues of defamation?
If it can be established, just like Amie Bensouda is claiming
Right.
about Kurang.
What Amie is also claiming, if it can be established, and if Kurang
Yes,
can
that's
defend
that's
his case.
common. That's logic. I was not even gonna get there because that's just logical.
Right.
I mean, that does not need an analysis. That's just logic. If any of them can claim and prove defamation, then it stands. But until that happens, it's just an allegation of defamation. Only the court can prove that yes, it amounts to defamation. That the utterances of Kurang, the whatever Amie Bensouda had said in their letter, or amounts to defamation.
Now, in the instance, Amie Bensouda's document, if it never contained anything that talks about Kurang personally and what he had done in the commission,
I can't hear you. I'm not hearing you anymore.
What I'm saying is, if Amie Bensouda's document did not have anything that has to do with Kurang, you did this, you did that, wherein, you know, on a normal circumstances, that is how the document is. But this document went on to tell us what Kurang did and did not do, or probably did not do right? Now,
no, but there's nothing wrong. Like I said, it is not the usual cease and desist letter.
The usual. So there is a motive.
No. Hang on, Omar. No.
It is not the usual, but there is no motive.
No. Hang on. You see, the thing is, I'm not going to what I don't want us to do. What I don't want us to do, really, because I think it will be grossly unfair. I don't want us to think to get into the mind of Kurang or to get into the mind of Amie Bensouda. Okay?
So,
now, let's look at it this way. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm getting you. I'm right here.
Okay. So basically, we have to look at it this way. Now, Amie Bensouda tried to lay the foundation of why she feels that Kurang has a personal vendetta against her. Okay? So what she was trying to do was to establish the facts as to why she thinks Kurang is insistent on defaming her. Okay? So what she tried to say was that these were things that was alleged by the commission that Kurang had done. But what she is also saying is that when Kurang is making any reference to the commission, Kurang does not make any reference to the commission per se, but to Amie Bensouda as a person. Okay? But let me get to the part that I wanted to say, that the reason why I feel that the defamation, the cease and desist letter and the threat to an impending defamation case against Kurang is problematic is because the questions that Kurang are asking are questions that every other Gambian is asking with regards to the commission. So taking Kurang to court will not stop Gambians from asking the same questions. Taking Kurang to court and even winning a defamation case against Kurang will not change the public perception, the public view as to what has transpired within the commission. So the letter I wrote to Amie Bensouda, what the rationale for that letter was to actually make her, because it does not matter how wise a person is, it does not matter, you know, how much wisdom a person has. People can look at things from different angles and have different, and from different perspectives. And what I was trying to say is that this is a public interest matter. Now, when we see things happen, so for example, when you allege the president of something, he comes out, he clears the air. You get me? When they mention things that Esafal did at the TRRC, he came out, he cleared the air. So for me, the part that I don't quite understand, and which is the reason why I wrote to Mrs. Bensouda, is that for 7 years, this man has been making pronouncements against you to the effect that there were irregularities in the commission. Why can you not, as lead counsel, offer the Gambian public a robust, solid rebuttal of these allegations against the commission and by extension against you as a person? That is what I find problematic, and that is what I do not understand. Yes, I know fully well that the life of the commission, the span of the commission has come to an end, but I also believe that as a lead counsel, as a senior lawyer, as a person with her legal standing and her years fighting for justice, I don't see anything wrong in her coming out to offer clarity on issues that Gambians are confused about. Are you getting me? Because what it appears is when you take Kurang to court, because this has gone beyond personalities, it has gone beyond Amie Bensouda Kurang issue, it comes across as if you're telling Gambians, you're telling the entire populace that nobody can question me, and that if you raise any issues about what I have done as a public servant in the dispensation of my work in the commission, I would use the law to silence you. I'm not saying, let me clarify, I'm not saying that is what she is doing. I'm saying this is the interpretation that it will be given. Huh?
Very true. That's very true that already people are saying, oh yeah, she's used to suing people, so she just want to sue so that she can silence you.
So basically that is where I was looking, that's where I was viewing everything from. But like I said, the letter from Mrs. Ben to Alhagie Kurang has also raised issues. Now it will be for Kurang to come out and dispel whatever it is that that letter contains. Now, Kurang, I'm sure, would be speaking to his lawyers. I'm sure he would seek legal guidance, legal advice. And maybe the strategy would be for him to be quiet and then wait for Mrs. Bensouda to prove the allegations raised in those letters in a court of law, that is assuming that the matter would get to the courts. So really, that's what it is. But the fact is, people were confusing the cease and desist letter with legal action. It has not yet amounted to legal action. What she is asking for is that he should stop defaming her, and that he should retract utterances that seek to paint Mrs. Bensouda in bad light. And only if he persists and continues would there be a legal action against him, and that damages of up to $2 million, which is $144 million, could be claimed against him. Omar?
So explicitly, that's very clear. You know, I have no problem that if somebody feels that they're being defamed, they could actually, you know, seek the law or the courts for redress, and which Amie is doing in this case. But then this has to do with like a national interest, because the commission has everything to do with every Gambian. And then it's been like 6-7 years Kurang insinuating and putting up stuff here and there. And it's important that she also clears her name. But then it came at a time wherein we talked about these people who were running the commission need to be held accountable. Imagine Amie holding, Kurang accountable when the Gambians are holding all of them accountable. You get the point? So for me, it's like all of these things concurrently or at the same time, it's more or less, diversion of attention here and there. It's important that Gambians focus on the fact that this is a civil matter, probably is going to be a civil matter between, Kurang and Amie, depending on how they build their animosity while working within the commission. But the interest of the Gambian people is about what had happened in the commission. And of course, each of them have an individual and of course collective responsibility as for what had happened in the commission. In as much as Kurang, I consider him as both a perpetrator and a victim in a way, because he was later kicked out of the commission. But while he was at the commission, they've done things that probably did not go right. And equally, Amie had put up some, individual responsibility issues that Kurang would have done that he did not do rightly. So for me, the whole point is that is also to actually inject a public opinion on Kurang that he is not a saint, as he's trying to claim on the media that, oh, go and ask this person this, go and ask this person that. But while you were in the commission, you Kurang, you did this, you did that, which you know that did not follow the standard operational procedures of the commission. And you've actually fallen short in one way or another while you were serving in the commission. So you are not a saint in one way or another. You also did some wrongs. So the document first came out to give warnings to Kurang and to ask him to retract and of course, apologize, but as well went on to tell Kurang, you are not a saint as you try to portray in the Gambian, media. You also did this and that also inject a feeling into people. Oh, so Kurang probably did this or did that, because we all cannot substantiate it because we did not work for the commission. So the onus now depends on Kurang to rebut or to also counter, go to, probably counter, send something like Amie sent to him to say, this and this and this I consider as defamatory remarks in your document that was leaked into the Gambian public. So I am going to also, ask for an apology. Otherwise, I will sue you. So there could be in this case two, court cases, both from one from Amie and also another from Kurang. And then we have like the commission and its commissioners and its stakeholders who are going to be facing accountability to Gambian people.
Which is exactly what I said in the start,
right?
That it could amount to a counterclaim
Right.
from Kurang.
So there would be a lot of things. At this moment, what Gambians need to know is the truth and nothing but the truth about what had happened in the commission. And all of them in one way or another. We cannot remove Kurang and think that, oh, because he's the first person to shout or something is wrong in the commission. But at that point, before Kurang would shout, Kurang was doing something which was in a way illegal. So Kurang bears an individual and a collective responsibility. Let's say now, you asked me to do something because you're a legal practitioner or probably you are the head of the commission. And I, knowing my TOR, and I was giving my TOR, and I went ahead to execute that because the commission asked me to. And then if you come to a commission and they ask you, Kurang, where is your TOR? Was selling Jammeh's assets part of your TOR? Oh, no, but the commission asked me to do it. A professional? Like the junglers will tell you, oh, no, we were following orders.
We were obeying orders.
Right? So this is the point I was trying to bring to him. Where is your TOR? Where is your appointment? Where is the TOR of the commission? Where are the functions of the commission? Does it include that you have powers as per, High Court, but the High Court does not execute its own orders?
No, not only that. No, Omar, wait. I vehemently oppose that. They have. I need to get into the law to read this again. Give me a second.
No, but read that part of just read that part of the law. If you look at the specificities as per the things they could do, at one point they could actually give interim orders. So if they could give interim orders, they could give orders to sell. But that doesn't mean that they can go and sell. Read that part of the Constitution or whatever document that is. They could give interim orders actually. Did you see that yet?
No, the Constitution is loading.
All right. So while you're loading that, in short, for me,
listen to
okay.
this. Okay. I want to read this entire thing, so just hold on.
All right.
So basically, a commission of inquiry appointed under this section shall have the powers, rights, and privileges of the High Court or a judge thereof. But listen, this is the mistake, because that is, you see, so the average Gambian, when they read, they see what.
Read along. Read along. Just read first.
No, hang on. I'm speaking to the audience as well.
All right.
So
no, but if you explain, then you read, then it becomes. But read it all together.
So
then
it says a commission of inquiry appointed under this section shall have the powers, rights, and privileges of the High Court or a judge thereof, but the operative word in this thing, in section 3A is in respect of.
Now go to the respect of. What are the things that are
mentioned? In respect of. What that basically means is that you have the powers of the High Court, you have the powers of a judge of the High Court, but not a blanket power, but in respect of, one, enforcing the attendance of witnesses and examining them on oath, affirmation, or otherwise. That's one. B, compelling the production of documents. And three, issuing a commission or request for the examination of witnesses abroad. Making such orders, interim orders, for the purposes of examination of witnesses, or for the purpose of their investigation.
Making interim orders. Can you read that interim orders? Everything that
interim
line?
orders for the purposes of investigation.
So they could actually make interim orders if they believe that these are basically, you know, perishable goods.
No, for the purpose of investigation.
But that is also part of the investigation.
No, I'm sorry, Omar. I'm sorry, no.
You disagree?
I'd rather die than accept that. No. No way.
So they could not make interim orders to
sell. You cannot dispose of for investigation. No, that is not your power.
No, but part of the investigation.
No. You don't investigate selling. You don't investigate disposal of assets.
Okay, wait. You read the part of it. Let me give you my version, and then you.
No. There is not your version. There is not your version.
My understanding. So you can correct it. You're a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, right? So let me give you my understanding of it, and then you would correct it. That makes it easy for me to understand. And that is why when you correct things, I go and ask the person involved to say, where did you get these powers? What I understood from the interim orders is that while they are investigating, and there exist materials that definitely could actually, you know, be damaged while the investigation is going on, and then it will cause the state losses or whatsoever, they could make interim orders to actually sell those assets, but they will not, you know, kind of put this money elsewhere, but they'll put it in an account where they could actually generate more income. And then by the end of the commission, and they realize that this person really did not do anything wrong, probably the owner would still reclaim those monies. But then in that process of making interim orders, they cannot execute their own orders. That is what I understood from it. But if the orders are meant to be just orders to investigate, I think the whole commission was set up to investigate. So if something is there that is considered perishable, what do you do with it? You just let it perish?
Okay, so I'll explain something about the law in interpretation.
Right.
You have different rules of interpretation. Okay? And one of the rules of interpretation is the mischief rule. Right?
Right.
Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to look at what the law is trying to cure.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, the Constitution is very clear. It's very clear. So it states in section. Remember, all the other pointers that I've read are subsections.
Right.
So you have the section which is the actual section that takes care of this, and then you have the subsection, and then you have A, B, C, and D of the subsection. Okay? Now, what operates the subsection? Hang on, let me get back to yes. What operates the subsection? What controls it? What gives it life is the preceding section.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it says a commission of inquiry appointed under this section shall have the powers, the rights, and privileges of the High Court or adjourner in respect of.
Those specific.
When you say in respect of, it has taken back. It's like a clawback. Well, in law, they call it a clawback law. So when you read it as it is, you're thinking, oh, the commission of inquiry is a High Court. It has all the powers of the High Court. But then it qualifies it. It says it has all the powers of the High Court, but only in respect of these things. So when you make an interim order, in law, the other person should be put on notice, no?
That should be the case, yes.
If I want to sell your cow, you have a constitutional right to say, you know what? This cow is so sentimental to me that I don't want the proceeds. I don't want the money that comes with it.
But in this case, that's not possible. That was not possible. What I'm trying to say is that, okay, if you look at it, because initially, you know, we talked about the perishability of some of these goods.
But the commission does not have that power. What the commission should have done, that is what Batambedu did in the second leg. I've raised this before. What the commission should have done is to write back to the president, who established the commission by legal notice, to say that we have a situation where we have these goods that are perishable.
Right.
Okay? And that we cannot continue to do this and this and that, because by the time the commission would complete its findings, maybe this and this would have happened. Okay? Then it would be, are you getting me?
I'm getting it.
It would be for the commission to either receive instructions from the president for the commission to either go to court, ask the court for an order, or the Ministry of Justice, like they did in the second leg, go to court to ask the court for an order to sell. Now, Omar, think about it this way. Let me build something. Why do you think Batambedu would be aware that the commission is already selling cattle and that they have the powers to sell, but would subsequently decide to go to court to get an order to sell? Because that is why the sheriff got involved in the sale. So you see this whole bit about the Manding King doing stuff, it was because somebody went to court to get an order, and the court does not execute its own orders.
Right.
The sheriff would execute the orders and judgments of the court. Now, what happened in this instance is that the Ministry of Justice, I am believing, by extension, Batambedu was already aware that the commission did not have powers to sell. So in order to cure this defect, they now decided to go to court to get an order to sell the remainder of the cattle.
Right.
You get my point?
Yeah.
The commission, even though they said to you that these items were perishable, but the question that everybody should be asking is, why did they sell some and not sell the others? Why did they sell some of the tractors and did not sell the rest? Okay? The commission did not have the powers to sell anything. I can't hear you.
I believe that the commission did not have the powers to sell, but my understanding of the interim orders differs a little bit. I thought they have the powers to make orders to say, okay, because of this reason and this reason and this reason, and we got this expert, opinion that these materials are going to be, they're quite perishable. Then we can make an order to say, can you sell these items? And then another body would definitely go and implement that.
No.
But then the commission itself to make those orders and go back to implement their own orders.
You can even listen to lawyer Manding intervention for the people. They don't have the powers to sell.
No, I understand. They don't have the powers to sell.
They don't have the powers to sell.
So that means they don't have the powers to sell, and they don't have
and
the
what
powers
what I said to you before, that even, and I said this, if you go back to the live, that let us assume they had the power. Let us assume.
Then they cannot execute their own orders. Yes.
Even if they had the powers to sell, the commission cannot issue an order to sell, and then the commission decides to execute the order to sell.
Right.
Because where would the checks and balances arise?
So that was where I actually draw the cordons. For me, it's like, okay.
And if the commission has the power to sell, then what it would mean is that the commission can, in its own accord, do anything to dispose of the assets, which is what they did. Because remember, the commission's findings, the report of the commission has not got the force of the law until it is translated into a cabinet paper. The president can reject the findings of the commission.
Right.
So what if the president rejected the findings of the commission that these assets that they claim did not belong to Jammeh indeed belong to Jammeh? The cows, the cattle.
But that's why I think they put it in an account, that account where it could actually get, like, how
the commission, again, Omar, where are you taking these things from? The commission does not have that mandate. Even the court does not have that. It is only the sheriff that can dispose of assets and put it in an interest-bearing account. The courts can't do that.
That is exactly what we're agreeing on.
So how did the commission open an account?
I said the commission did not have a right to sell.
Yes.
But I thought the commission have a right to make the interim order for the sales to happen. So in that case, my understanding is that they could make the orders, but they cannot execute their own orders. Yeah. But whereas they went ahead to actually execute their own orders, that is quite wrong. Yeah. And then, okay, in the event that it has to happen, like we're talking about the process, the sheriff, when they did the sales, they had to put it in an account. So if the person now claims that, oh no, we are not guilty of this particular crime, they probably pick those monies from those accounts and give the person.
And that would have been in an interest-bearing account.
Exactly the point. Yeah. Right.
Now,
anyway, we've said okay. That is a question now I wanted to ask you today.
Now,
go ahead.
Let's look at, as we're doing this, let's go into the issue of the reports. Now, if you realize something, and this again shows to my mind, you there? You there?
You said I should leave this girl alone, so let her distract us a little bit. Otherwise, I would have, if it is not us, I would have said, hello, let me go away for a little bit. But of course, yeah, I'm getting it. You said the commission?
Yeah, so basically, the commission, in a way, and this is the part that I don't understand, because all these sales that went through during the subsisting of that commission was not reflected in the reports. Yeah. But now there are statements that are coming out to say that the commission's report referenced appendices that were attached to the report.
So probably the appendixes stopped at Batambedo's office. I'm just let me not make an allegation before you take me to court.
But then what happened was there was a counter claim that the appendices that were attached to the report that the report made reference to did not exist.
What?
Yes. But then again, to my mind, I'm asking, the question is, why wouldn't 9 volumes of report, okay?
Yeah.
Why did you have to attach appendices of these things to the report? Why not just include it in the report?
Right.
If you can go through the pains of having a 9-volume report, why make references to something which now the Ministry of Justice is saying that they don't have? Because if you listen to Dr. Ceesay on Coffee Time, he's saying that these documents that the Ministry of Justice released into the public are not the real documents, because those documents don't have any sort of authenticity. Because he said it was just something they gathered and some people collated, people that had things to do with the commission. Listen, go and listen back to his interview. And what that tells you is the 9-volume report that the Ministry of Justice received was devoid of the appendices that was made reference to in the report itself.
Well, wouldn't that be criminal that you actually made reference to, appendices that you never submitted?
But then this is where it's going to get interesting, because the
who is
commission,
telling the
I
truth now?
swear, the commission would say that it was submitted.
But submitted to who?
No, the commission would say that it was submitted to the president. But then what you and I should be asking, Omar, is what happened to
the appendices?
The appendices for the past 7 years.
Why will I?
No, are you getting my point?
I got the point, of course.
So the report was presented to you in 2019, and you realize that there was nothing that was attached that the report was making reference to. But then you had a ministerial committee that was overlooking or was supervising the work, both the reports and the work of the receiver.
And as well, actually, came out with a white paper. That means you have reviewed the report.
So now, are you getting my point, Omar? Yeah. So now, because of the white paper, and that white paper actually alluded to the brilliant and phenomenal work of the commission, how then can the Ministry of Justice or the executive make a solid case to say that the commission did not support and did not submit the attachments thereof that was referred to in the report?
Funny enough, the same government that praised the commission.
Yeah, 1 minute. Before you say this, you know how you can liken this to? You know the reason why when you go to the bank, the tellers would ask you to count the money right there and confirm?
Right.
Because when you leave the bank, by commission or action, you are agreeing that what was given to you is correct.
That's right.
Okay. Right. So after 7 years, it would be absolutely ludicrous for a solid case to be made that the commission submitted a 9-volume report, conspicuously allowed for these attachments to be absent. That is absolutely crucial to the work done by the commission.
And also, Melville, when we look at it technically, it's very impossible for you to write a document and make reference of attachments and you put attachment numbers, and then at the end of the day, those attachments did not exist. How could somebody do that? Do you understand my point? For instance, you make reference to appendixes, and you have appendices numbers, and then you put all of those things in your text. You refer to a particular appendix in a particular document, and all of a sudden somebody claims that you never send the the appendixes, or the appendixes never existed. How can somebody cook that?
But the issue is what I find very problematic with the utterances of Dr. Ceesay is that what he said on Coffee Time is actually having a massive ramification on the executive.
Exactly. And he
because
doesn't
what
understand
Dr. Ceesay was saying basically is that the president, the executive, is incompetent, that they cannot analyze a report, that they are incapable of detecting missing pieces that a report has made reference to, and that they have a lackadaisical attitude, and that they have a flawed ability to comprehend
basics.
A commission's report that was done at the instance of the executive, because the president is the executive.
And then
but then
out
it does not stop there, but then it shows a shroud of dishonesty in trying to gaslight the Gambian public by willfully knowing that the commission's report had missing references with regards to the appendices that are now missing, but yet still you issued a government white paper commending the brilliant job that the commission has done. So where can the executive now go to hold the commission accountable when that white paper is still alive, referencing the brilliant job that the commission had done?
No, that is basically what I told somebody today. I said what Ismailia Ceesay said today. Basically, if I was one of the commissioners, what I would do is I will just take the government white paper and just read the last page of it, where government commended this commission and said a lot of good things about them. But all of a sudden, the same Ismailia Ceesay came out today to say that the commission did a terrible job. But the government you were serving commended these people for a tremendous and a wonderful job they had done. So that is already an inconsistency. But again, this is the person that told us that, the government had not interfered in any way into the affairs of the commission. But equally told us that the government had stopped the sales of some of those luxurious vehicles at State House that he was showing us, those dusty vehicles. And I was like, now you're putting this government in a bigger ditch, because today you told us they did not interfere. The next day you said State House or Office of the President had stopped them from selling some of those luxurious vehicles.
But that is even, Omar, that is even them making reference to the receiver. That was when the commission had actually ended. But let me tell you the most interesting part. Again, let us go back and make reference to Amie Bensouda's letter, is where she stated in her letter that Kurang was given an instruction to stop the sale because they had a directive from State House to stop. Okay? That is absolutely fundamental, because what it means is that the position of the executive right now, where Dr. Ismailia Ceesay stated that the commissions were independent and Barrow was a democratic leader who would not interfere in the processes that the commission was undertaking. But then the letter from Mrs. Bensouda is now saying that that is not factual, and that indeed there was interference in the disposal of these assets. And what this also mean, Omar, what this also mean is that the executive was at all times aware that the commission was selling.
Amie Bensouda's document is actually touching several birds.
It's loaded. That is loaded.
Several birds. It's touching several birds at the same time. First, it's rebutting what the president said in his statement. Do you understand that? That is a rebuttal to what the president said, because he said they were not interfering. He did not know. But the document of Amie Bensouda explicitly said that Office of the President had actually told us this and that and that. So that already rebuts what the president said, that he was not aware. So he's well aware of whatever was going on in the commission. It went ahead to talk about Kurang, that Kurang, you are not a saint.
Absolutely.
So that means this is going to have like a tripartite dimension, and it's going to have a lot of political bearings. So by the time all of these things, and then Amie understanding that the persons who were taken from the National Assembly to come and do whatever, either investigation, some of them owe allegiance to the president. And already what the president said has some element of either truth or not, because if Amie said that the office of the president did that, that is left to them to provide evidence to. But I don't think Amie would say that out of nothing. So it's basically BS weight. So her document, I said, was not only directed at Kurang, but it also speaks about Kurang and also everything that is going around this whole case. So it's loaded. It's just beyond.
So that is why I say that the utterances of Dr. Ceesay is exposing either the incompetence of the president and by extension the executive, or it's a political jibe done to make a political score, because those utterances are not helping the president, nor is it helping the executive.
Did you also realize that Dr. Ismailia Ceesay is not taking any responsibility, but putting a lot of blames on the commission and trying to put UDP on a bad
So that's what I'm saying.
In trying to put blames on the commission, point, he's trying to look at it from a political lens and trying to attack a particular political entity. So evidently, they have politicized this at the level of the NPP and its coalition partners, instead of objectively telling the Gambians their incompetence and the malgovernance that this regime has been doing. Now he's trying to tell us that, oh, this Kora guy was actually in the sales. Where did the doctor get a document that says that this guy was selling whatever? Which commission gave the guy the right to go about selling? Which government entity give the guy? So if somebody calls you or come to this particular place, you came there, but what is doctor's intent? Oh, now attacking the commission and saying the commission did a terrible job. You know why? Because somebody wants to be president whose mother was lead counsel to this particular commission. Of course, why is he talking about this Kora guy? Because he's a member of the United Democratic Party. So now you can see that doctor is not objectively looking at Gambian and their problem, but is looking at it from a political lens and trying to inject a particular direction towards it in a partisan light. So people need to understand that Ismailia Ceesay in this context is not talking about the problem that the common Gambian or the non-partisan Gambian is talking about, or the accountability that people seek, but it's about partisan politics and trying to direct people's minds into, oh, it's not us, it's the UDP, or it's not this government. But who has been the president of the Gambia since 2016? Who bears the bigger responsibility in this whole case? So at the end of the day, it's quietly and entirely, it comes back to Adama Barrow. In as much as you might not like the United Democratic Party, or probably they were involved at that point in time, Ismailia Ceesay cannot make excuses for Adama Barrow by pointing fingers at the United Democratic Party, because Adama Barrow is the principal in this whole case. And of course, was the office of the president that was interfering in the activities of the commission, which they initially said they never did because they're a democratic guy. So Ismailia contradicts himself without even understanding what he's saying, and of course puts government in bad light, thinking that he's fixing it. My whole issue is that if you tell me that the government was not interfering, or they did not submit a good report, but then they did not submit a good report and they did a bad job, but the government you are working for today, yesterday said that these people did a tremendous and a fantastic job. So government now has double tongues like snakes. He tells us that government is incompetent, government is unable and incapable of running the affairs of the country, that the president does not understand documents and does not really understand, what is going on. His technicians are quite incompetent and they are incapable of running the affairs of the country, because they give praises where on terrible jobs, if he referred to the commission as a terrible entity or probably had done a terrible job. But government praised a terrible job. Government acted on a terrible job. Government implemented in a way a terrible job. So that's a terrible government as well.
So I'll leave you to do the political shots, whilst I'll stick on the analysis of the law.
Suddenly,
brilliant, huh?
Yes, certainly, okay. Yes. That makes
now let's look at this again. Initially, you remember when the current Justice Minister Dawda Jallow went to Parliament. You remember that?
Yeah.
And what he said in Parliament was that the government has decided not to release the list of buyers of Jammeh's asset because it would be invading their privacy.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Ceesay is saying
we don't have
the list released by the Ministry of Justice is not authentic because the Ministry of Justice does not have any list, because no list was submitted to the government. So what this also means is that Dr. Ceesay is telling the Gambian public that Dawda Jallow, the current Minister of Justice and Authority, lied to the National Assembly.
You know, everything that doctor is
So
doing now.
I don't know, and I hope people are watching who are in government and in high places. But the continued pronouncement of Dr. Ceesay is doing and painting the government of Adama Barrow in absolute bad light.
But that is why it's important to think before you speak, and you have to really have, because doctor does not
You
have.
see,
He doesn't have a
being an
reflective
information minister. I mean, somebody commented, a friend of mine commented that, oh, doctor is only saying what he has been told to say. But I said to the person, as a state minister, you cannot just say what you have been told to say. The facts that you're saying have to be verified.
But at the end of the day, he bears an individual and a collective responsibility in what he's doing. Because if you say it because you're told to say it, somebody could say, I did it because I was told to do it. How many times have doctors sat down and watched the TRRC hear people say, oh, I was told to do this, or I was told to say this, or I was told to release this particular press release about things that happened terribly. So in short, what I'm trying to put across here is that the guy is talking about things that he did not know and he did not witness. What I would have done if I were him was like, I was not in government at the time. I have no clear view of what had happened here. Of course, I am the government spokesperson, but I will not be here to defend what I do not know. I rather say what I know and what we are about to do and what we will do. But what had been done and what had been reported and what was not reported, I don't know. I was not there and I was not in government. But at this stage that it had all happened, these are the steps and the procedures or the processes that government want to do to correct or to probably bring about, a change in some of those activities. But you want to go back and then, try to apportion blame to the United Democratic Party by saying things that actually exposes government's inability and inefficiency, that actually puts government in a bad light. That the information minister should be wiser than what he is doing right now. Because if you talk about a particular individual and the individual came out to give rebuttals, it's like we have, that circle of people blaming each other or apportioning blame to each other who were bedfellows at one time. This issue shouldn't be seen in a partisan light. Whoever did Gambia wrong should be held accountable. But already we can see that the government of the Gambia is already trying to blame the major opposition about this whole case. And now that is why I believe that the National Assembly is not the right place to actually bring about justice in this case or bring about accountability, because these are politicians who have political affiliations to different political parties. For instance, if Barrow, who claimed that he did not interfere, Amie Bensouda's letter clearly stated that Barrow or the office of the president interfered. Will the National Assembly clearly tell us that the office of the president had a hand in all of these, theft and corrupt practices that had happened with the commission, when the leader of this particular, setup by the National Assembly is, an affiliate or probably, a subject of the president? You get the point?
Yeah.
So where will be impartiality in this case? Already, Dr. Ceesay's diction and his direction already indicates partisanship instead of bringing, the truth and, of course, an honest account of things to Gambians. And some of the things he says contradict, his previous statements. Anytime doctor speaks now, know that he's contradicting a previous statement. And then, or he's either contradicting himself or contradicting other ministers or contradicting documents that government brought out. So that means he explicitly, I believe that the government of Adama Barrow is not an honest government, because doctor had contradicted, Jallo, who is the Minister of Justice. Doctor had contradicted Batambedu and had contradicted the entire executive
And
that
contradicted
actually,
the president.
And contradicted the executive that developed that white paper.
Because the president said the Janneh Commission was an independent commission, and they submitted their reports to him. But what Dr. Ceesay said on Coffee Time was that they stopped the sale. That alone is interference.
Exactly.
But I am holding brief for him, and I'm assuming he was responding to the activities of the receiver trying to sell these vehicles. But then, when Amie Bensouda mentioned in her missive to Alhagie Kurang through her lawyers, she explicitly stated that Alhagie was asked to halt the sale because a directive came from State House that they should stop the sale.
Now, another thing.
That was a solid interference of the activities
Ano-
of the commission by the executive.
Another thing is, you realize that State House did not ask them to stop on the basis of law or to say that, no, you don't have the right to do so, but they were redirecting them to actually sell it to like either vulnerable Gambian. But that is very quite subjective. If you say vulnerable Gambian, every Gambian is vulnerable in a way or another, more so the farming communities. So if the presidency, how are they going to determine that?
What gave the executive or State House the legal standing to determine a vulnerable society when the commission is already investigating the allegation?
And had
so
already,
if you look at
already
it,
withdrawn some of these tractors from this farm.
yeah. So if you look at it, State House was complicit in the sale. They were aware of the sale. They did not stop the sale because the Janneh Commission, they believe, did not have the power to sell, but they stopped the sale because they wanted to identify a society, a community that they believe was vulnerable.
Probably, let's just cut it short. They wanted to get their own buyers because they are not going to give to communities for free. They were going to sell.
That is why, listen, and that is why Batambedu went to court to get an order of the court to sell. So
already, State House has interfered in the activities. That is why I said,
but let's go. I think we've exhausted this.
Amie's document, APRC, there were folks in APRC that said something against her, and she took them, she actually sent a document like that and they apologized immediately. Why do you think this one is coming at this time? It is killing several birds at the same time. That's why I said this is a very, very, intelligent lawyer who knows what she's doing. And then it is going to keep the conversation, and a lot of things have been revealed that were being covered up by either State House or other parties that are involved. So that document is directed to Alhagie Kurang, but had actually touched a cross-section of society, including the State House. But exhaustively, I think we've said a lot about that case here and there.
But now the part that I want us to look at is the fact that I don't now believe that the National Assembly, the select committee that was chosen, have the grounded expertise to look into the irregularities of the Janneh Commission. But the mere fact that the representative in the National Assembly that are looking into these asset disposal are political themselves in their representation in the National Assembly. So their foremost responsibility, even though should be a political when it comes to national issues, but you could tell that the bias would be present because the scrutiny that should follow, the oversight that should really look into these asset sales would be flawed and would be politically biased and sentimental to or leaning towards their political godfather. And secondly, I don't understand why, when the Janneh Commission submitted its report and a subsequent white paper was issued, and the Ministry of Justice decided to publish the report less some of these documents, why didn't the National Assembly, that has an oversight authority on the executive, raise these issues as to the irregularities that are in the commission's findings? That's one. Two, when the Justice Minister appeared before the National Assembly and said in the floor of the National Assembly that the government will not publish the list of buyers because it would breach on their privacy, why didn't the National Assembly institute a select committee like they have done now to probe into that dealing, or even compel the Minister of Justice to produce that list? What it means to me is that the National Assembly was never aware of their powers. They were never aware or understood the length and degree of their oversight, the oversight authority over the executive. And it only took a gala protest. It took a protest of young boys, young women and girls, and women and men, or young boys and girls, to come out and demand that this list be produced. And it was then that the National Assembly members suddenly realized that they have a power to constitute a committee to look into these. What does that tell you?
Evidently, all of these things are just running away from accountability because they will not establish an independent inquiry into it. So it's just like a rush to say, you know what, we better do this before an independent inquiry comes out of it, because then it will be independent people who will bring about the truth about everything. And then our political party, or probably the regime, will actually collapse on that basis. So what they're doing is they're actually doing all of these things sugarcoating, and to ensure that they bring in the politicians to correct the politicians. They will not bring in the experts and real investigators and lawyers or people of competent character and conduct to actually do this impartial investigation. They will bring their own people and their own political allies to actually investigate them. It's just like telling me, go and investigate Melville, or tell Melville, go and investigate Omar. What exactly are you going to come out with? You know? So the fact of the matter is that it's bedfellows that are going to actually, talk about issues, and then the real issues will never come out. Somebody told me, no, we are going to bring in national audit, and we are going to bring in, all relevant stakeholders here and there. I tend to believe that at some point, if these are public hearings, people will know if you are impartial in what you're doing or not. But I hope the investigations, in a way or another, goes rightly, but which I actually doubt. Because now the whole point is, if the minister had already politicized it, and of course, you can even see the reactions on the basis of, and the documents or the exchanges between Kurang and now Amie Bensouda have also taken some political linings. I saw a National Assembly member telling Kurang, we have been documenting all that you've been saying. This National Assembly member is not Amie Bensouda's son. He is not any way related to Amie Bensouda. He's just a National Assembly member for the United Democratic Party. Where is the we coming from? It's not a stakeholder in Amie's activities. It's not Amie's biological child. Has nothing whatsoever to do with Amie. It's just like Amie and Kurang having their individual issues, deciding to either withdraw or I take you to court, and somebody is now using Amie as a we. That's a political lining already. And then you can see the support base, because Gambia, we know each other. We know where people are actually. Just yesterday, we saw Ahmad Ba telling, Mustafa, who actually brought about all of these things to light, that is going to sue him to court. The same people who are now saying, oh, Kurang, go to court and defend yourself, we are telling Ahmad Ba that you cannot do that simply because your government is exposed, you are part of this. And they were vilifying Ahmad Ba for saying, oh yeah, my name is mentioned, probably in the bad light, and it's not true. He has a right to go to court if he wanted to go. So if you say that, no, that is against, probably, what keeps society together, and that is somebody who's trying to run away from accountability. If somebody else said the same, let's just say, you know what, if these are individual issues, let the individuals deal with it. But if we inject partisan politics into it and we start taking sides, where is Gambia going to get justice? Where is accountability going to come from? Because if anybody from the NPP is involved in it, NPP will defend you. Anybody from the UDP is involved in it, UDP will defend you. Anybody from another side like Kurang Independent, probably you have lesser people to defend you because you have no political lining in terms of political party. Of course, probably young people who are agitated by the wrongs of our country would actually come out to defend you. So I think what Gambia needs to do is to understand that this issue is beyond our partisan politics, and we cannot look at it from partisan light. Even though the regime has already politicized it, the Gambians need to understand that we must unite in this case to account Adama Barrow's regime, because the regime is what the regime bears the bigger responsibility of accountability, and it needs to be accounted. And all of the things that they've been saying, they are contradicting one thing to another. That already tells us about complicity in the regime and the lack of competence, and as well as the wrongdoings and absolute corruption that is institutionalized in this government. So for me, it's not about what this person is saying to the other, but in the end, holistically, do you see us having any justice in this case, or real accountability, whereas it is given to politicians to decide? Didn't you see?
political interest in it
The
altogether?
truth is, I don't really know what will actually come out of. It's going to be interesting because I don't know what's going to come out of the findings of the select committee.
That is why I tell you, that is why I tell you that Amie's document is very timely, and it is not directed at one person. It has touched a lot of corners.
Oh, I know that. Absolutely.
You are lawyers, so you basically know the timing, and of course, knowing where we are going. Sees the direction in which we are going, and the, how. You know that Dr. Ceesay's statements are all directed at Amie, not really. He mentions commission, but you know where he's going. There is a Mandinga proverb that if you leave a little cow, it runs to its mother. If you release a statement, it knows its direction. When Kurang says some things, he doesn't mention Amie Bensouda, but we know where he is directing it at. When Dr. Ismailia Ceesay speaks,
but the question I want to ask, I mean, I want to ask you as a non-lawyer, and probably you could help me understand this. Why has the chair of the commission, all the commissioners, why have they never been mentioned in everything that has to do with the commission? And it's always been an Amie Bensouda and Alhagie Kurang. What happened to the actual commissioners of this commission?
Now,
what ever happened to the chair of this commission?
Because those people have no political interest. So Janneh doesn't want to be president. His son probably doesn't want to be president. The fact of the matter is that in as much as the commission did all the wrongs, and then the attention is not on the commission holistically, it's just on an individual. This individual has political interest, not directly, but indirectly, in a way that the son wants to be president. And of course, Amie has the interest of having her son becoming president.
But then does that
is also animosity between the two. Because evidently, Kurang, if he had an issue with somebody else in the commission, he would have been focusing on that person. So Kurang personally had personal issues with Amie Bensouda, and that animosity had grown. Maybe Kurang believed that it is because of Amie Bensouda that he is removed from the commission. But Batambedu explicitly told us that, the council said they can no longer work with him. And of course, the commissioners said they can no longer work with him. But we have never seen Kurang attack the commissioners that said they can also no longer work with him. His attacks are only primarily on one individual.
But you also have to remember that it was not, Amie Bensouda did not just come out and say she cannot work with Kurang. Amie Bensouda was responding to the allegations that was raised by Kurang. So remember, it was Kurang that first raised the allegations. Kurang wrote a letter to the president.
But that's exactly what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying you're not saying that. I'm saying
when Kurang wrote that letter, he was invited by Batambedu.
No, that's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to make that point. The point I'm trying to make is Amie Bensouda raised the issue of not being able to work with Kurang because she felt that Kurang was being unreasonable towards her, and that Kurang had raised allegations against her, which she believed that those allegations were unfounded. And if you read her letter, which she wrote to the president or to the justice minister, it was bordered on those same issues, that she cannot continue to work with a person who she believes has the mental state of thinking that she is a fraud or that her activities within the commission are dubious.
So what I also picked up from that document is that Kurang was responding to what he refers to as political interference. But in Amie's letter,
the political interference is what Amie Bensouda said, that we now know what the political interference is. The political interference is the commission's instruction to Kurang to stop the sale,
and which was coming from
the president.
Right. So
but the anger, if we look at this thing objectively, right, the anger from that instruction was not directed to the state.
Exactly.
It was directed to Amie Bensouda.
So that is what I don't understand, because
that is what me and you will never understand. And it would only take a Kurang to explain that. Because for me, I feel there's a deficiency in that. And I feel there's a gap.
when I read Amie Bensouda's document, explicitly she did not say Kurang was attacking me or probably wrote to the president about me. But then because we got an instruction and we stopped him, then he referred to that as political interference from the office of the president probably, and he wrote to the president to say he need to continue the sale. But the persons who told you to sell asked you to stop. Why do you have a problem with that? But then if you have a problem with that, the persons who are telling them to stop it, why did you attack those people?
This is my point. Two things. This is my point exactly. Two things. One, I do not see the foundation for such deep-seated anger because the person that gave you instruction to sell asked you to stop. And remember, this is not your property, it's not your father's property. So two things are at play now. Was Kurang personally gaining from that sale? Was it just a political issue of political interference? And if it was an issue of political interference, why was the anger not directed at the person, the authority that gave the instruction to stop the sale?
Would it also be that other people within the commission have vested interest in the items that are being sold?
No, but that is not what the commission said. That would be absolutely unfair. No, but that would be absolutely unfair because the commission has said...
It will also be absolutely unfair.
No, hang on, let me finish. The commission has stated by way of Amie Bensouda's letter that that instruction came from the state, from the office of the president.
There are things that might be written and there are things that are unwritten.
No. Well, I can't, I mean, that I cannot do. I don't do that. I cannot.
That is why we cannot say that maybe Kurang also has a vested.
No, I never said he did. I'm analyzing, but I'm basing it on their utterances. I'm not thinking for anybody else.
Right.
I'm refusing to do that. I don't operate in that way. I cannot start thinking that, because what you're suggesting is that the commission might have colluded with the executive, and then the instruction came from the executive. I don't know that. Right. I don't know that.
So that is what I'm saying.
So what I know by way of facts, what is before you and I, is that the letter from Amie Bensouda explicitly states that the instruction came from the executive, from the from office of the president.
Right.
That is established.
Right.
What is also established is that Kurang, based on your interactions on Facebook, received instructions from the commission to sell. Right. What is also explicitly clear is that Kurang also received instructions from the same commission to stop selling.
Right.
These are established facts. Okay? So in our analysis, looking at the facts that have already been established, there's no dispute in that, is that what necessitated the grievance, the anger, everything else with regards to the stopping of the sale. Because if you listen to Kurang said that Amie Bensouda had approached her. He also said that Talib had approached him, rather, showing interest in some of the tractors or the cattle that was being sold.
That's exactly.
And he said to them that they should follow the open bidding process. This is what we've heard from Kurang. I've heard this. So that is an established fact.
Okay.
But Kurang did not write to the president, or Kurang did not oppose the fact that Amie Bensouda registered interest, or Talib registered interest in the sale. What Kurang got angry and upset about is when he was given instruction to stop selling. But then you raised an issue, Omar, asking where did the legality come from that Kurang became a salesperson and not secretary to the commission. And when you asked that question, your answer was, go and ask Amie Bensouda. And if that is the premise, what that would tell you is that that authority that Kurang derived to sell emanated from the commission, or by extension Amie Bensouda. And therefore, it is illogical that if that authority stemmed from the commission and from Amie Bensouda to sell, Why should it be problematic if that same instruction was withdrawn by the same authority that gave you that mandate?
But I think probably what I said earlier on, you didn't let me finish first. But then that's exactly what you said. Kurang equally alleged, or probably I did not hear that, but I was just assuming that's also a possibility. But of course, we are not here to assume. But you said that Kurang said there is a vested interest by Amie Bensouda and the son.
No,
You know,
he didn't say vested interest. He said they are interested in.
Okay, they're interested in having some of those items. Yeah. So maybe upon the approach, Kurang might be thinking that it's because I did not do this and that, or probably give them this and that. That is probably why OP actually. So maybe Kurang had a preconceived mind that on the basis of what our interaction was why they stopped me from the sales.
Bingo.
Because from Kurang's reactions and his behavior, you can tell that that is probably the animosity. That maybe the sales have been stopped, you know, by Amie Bensouda, which I don't think Amie Bensouda could stop the sales individually. It would be a decision from the commission. She was there to guide the process. Now, if Kurang had that animosity, probably something that we do not know would have happened between him and Amie Bensouda and probably her family. Because if Kurang said those people have interest in getting some of those items, and probably he told them to follow the due process, and all of a sudden he is asked to stop, he might be thinking, oh, because I did not give it to them the way they wanted, I am asked to stop. Which Amie explicitly explained that, you know, the reason why they were stopped was because Office of the President told them to stop.
That was not only it. That was not only what Amie Bensouda said.
The reason
why Kurang was asked to stop were two issues. One was the instruction that came from the Office of the President, but this was the latter part. Because after the instruction, it was stopped indeed. But Amie Bensouda, also raised issues about the affairs of how Kurang handled the sale.
Kurang's handling of the sales was not why it was stopped. It was stopped because OP asked them to stop. But Amie raised those things to tell about what Kurang was doing in the commission. That is not why they were stopped.
Listen. If this is not rocket science, it's common sense. The sale, the instruction to stop emanated from the Office of the President.
On what basis?
I don't know that. I don't know. That is just their instruction.
No, it's already written in the document.
We've addressed that issue. The basis is for some vulnerable community or whatever excuse they gave. That's not what I'm getting at.
That is why
what I am getting at, aside of that, is that the issues that was raised by the commission, this is not Amie Bensouda that raised the issue. The commission has...
At this point, I will say Amie Bensouda raised it because I did not hear it from the commission. I heard it from Amie Bensouda's document.
No, but then you're not being fair.
So whatever Amie Bensouda wrote, I should believe that. But
I mean, that's not Amie Bensouda's word. That's what I'm saying. Go and read her letter. She copied extracts from the commission's report where the commission raised these issues. That wouldn't be fair on her.
I sent you the document. I did not see where she made specific references to a particular point that the commission raised.
No, that's what she said. She said the commission
is bullet point 11. You have the document with you?
I'll go through it. I'll open the document.
Yeah, it's like 9, 10, and 11. So 11 is where she explicitly talked about what Kurang was doing. But already on 9, she told us what government of the Gambia did, and 10 was about the reason why they
that is fine. I'm not disputing that. But what I'm saying is, if Kurang had been in the commission and these issues were raised with, like, not accounting for this, not accounting for that, not accounting for that, that would have brought, I'm just saying hypothetically, that would have also brought issues in the commission.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that fully. That's
the instruction, the solid substantive instruction to stop the sale came from OP. We're told.
And that was not because Kurang was doing anything fraudulent.
Exactly.
It was because So the accusation of the fraudulent activities actually
that was within the commission.
That's what Amie Bensouda alleged. Yes. I'm trying to be a little lawyer here.
That is what Amie Bensouda alleged. That the commission established.
So hopefully she has documentations to that. That's very possible. we move on to the next subject, man. We've stayed quite long on this, and we've seen what Ismaila has
No.
said.
So I was gonna look at
the
the Manding King, but I'll leave that, and I just want you to run through the Ousainou Bojang thing.
You know, the reason why I don't involve you a lot on that, I was like, okay, you know, these lawyers, but I have a lot of questions when it comes to this particular case.
No, the reason why I'll tell you why I didn't involve much. I've written about it a lot, but the reason why I haven't involved much is because, you see, the life of a person is at stake.
Yeah.
And even though people always say that justice is meant to be blind, but we also agree that the persons, the individuals behind the dispensation of justice are human beings. And sometimes I don't want my utterances to have ramifications on the person that is before the court of law. I don't want, because I say something, somebody gets angry but cannot punish me, but punishes the person that is before them. That's the only reason why. But I will answer squarely any question that is posed to me.
Now, a couple of things. I would just want to look at the genesis of this whole thing, and then, you know, of course, we might not only look at it legally, but of course, logically, you know, you can basically put one and one together, and then you can basically understand, more so when it has to do with people and their mentalities and the criminalities that people could actually venture themselves into. Of course, a lawyer should supposed to know all of these things within and around society. First, Melville, we heard that there was a Yankuba Dabo case in Banjul where the UDP militants were brutalized by the police. I'm just giving a little bit of chronology and context. And then you see that when they were brutalized, Mamadou Sabali made a post to talk about Babu Jeng and Pate Jallo. That these are the people that are brutalizing our people, and then we are going to ensure that we revenge. And of course, you know, the revenge is going to be a painful one. And this is not only from Mamadou Sabal, it also came from Bayo Sonko and other people within and around, the UDP folks. Weeks and months later, 2 or 3 paramilitary officers were actually put on the Sukuta traffic light. Among the names that the UDP were complaining about, Babu Jeng and Pate Jallo. A junior Pate Jallo who had just finished recruitment not long ago was shot and killed. Let's say that's a coincidence. First, what happened was Mamadou Sabali and Bayo Sonko and others were arrested. Now, for me, my understanding of that would be probably it has something to do with politics. But then when Ousainou Bojang, whom I know and grew up with, was actually arrested, in connection to that, what the police told us is that they were tracking his phone, that there was a significant, call logs within or calls that he had made within that period. Now, what evidently came out is that there was an audio circulated by Mama Jabi who said that she actually captured the whatsoever, murderer of the cops, and that this person confessed in that audio. Now, when you listen to the audio in Mandinka, you realize that while Ousainou is talking about, I have a problem with my family and my, white girl, this lady is screaming on top of her voice, oh, you killed the cops. Do you know my relationship with the president? This audio, I was told clearly, reliably, that the police have transcribed this audio on 3 occasions, and there was no single part of the audio where this boy said, I killed the cops. Fast forward, we came to court. And then the lady was asked about the audio. She said that the audio is lost.
Go on. I'm listening.
But then, while the audio is lost, the government of the Gambia had came out to actually do a press conference. And prior to that press conference, we've heard from the government spokesperson. And the government spokesperson told us that the killer of the cops is basically somebody who works at Brikama Area Council, who was at the Yankuba Dabo court case in Banjul, who is a member of a political group, who is actually a rebel and was hired to kill a dozen of paramilitary. That this person was surveillancing paramilitary bases for a full 1 week. And after killing the paramilitary, he was actually giving, a ride into the thick forest of Casamas by his co-conspirators who met him in a mosque. The Ousainou Bojang that I know and grew up with in Brufut was not, and is not, has never been a rebel. Does not work in Brikama Area Council. Was not the guy in hoodie. not a member of the UDP. But why did the government of the Gambia feel the need to script that this person who killed the cops was at the Yankuba Dabo court case in Banjul? It was that court case where it was explicitly mentioned that Pate Jallo and Babu Jang, we are going to revenge. So why did the government feel the need to say that the killer of the cops, Ousainou Bojang, is a member of the UDP, was at the UDP court case in Banjul, and works in Brikama Area Council? Now, those are just the political statements within and around. So explicitly, when it was clear that everything Sankare told us was not true, Sankare came out to say that everything I had said was told to me by the police. And the police came out with a document or a press release to say everything that Sankare said, we told him. Now the question, why does the police find the need to lie about the killing of their own men? Because the police told us that they were tracking Ousainou Bojang's phone from one point to another. And then in court, it was established that this phone that the police claimed to be tracking in their press conference was dead and left in Bruford. And this guy only used his simple phone to go look for this marabou. So which phone was the police tracking? They said he wore a combat boot that when he was operating, this particular activity, but he was asked to wear this boot in court and it did not fit him. But of course, his smartphone, that when they arrested him and took him back to his place in Bruford and picked the smartphone, the police actually charged the smartphone and later took it to him to open the patterns, and he did so. And they looked into the phone, they realized that he was constantly on a WhatsApp conversation within the period of this particular, incident. Then the police deliberately formatted his phone. Now, the few questions I have is, why did the police lie that they were tracking Ousainou Bojang's phone? Why did the police say that Ousainou Bojang works in Brikama Area Council? Why did they say he was the guy in hoodie at the UDP court case, this specific case where Pate Jallo and Babu Jeng were mentioned? Why was a Pate Jallo killed? Are all of these things coincidence? As well, when the mother case, when the killing happens, the vehicle that the public said was the vehicle of the murderer belongs to a police officer who has a gun because it's an oddly to one of the governors. Now, the 3 military men who said they were following this particular murderer said he was shooting at them and they were taking cover on fence line. But the ballistic examination of this gun claims that only 3 bullets came out of the gun. But the gun had already killed 3 people. That is already 3 bullets. Which other gun was he using to actually shoot at this, military men who were pursuing him? But then a watchman who is a state witness said that he picked the gun on the day of the incident and called his boss, and his boss said, hide it somewhere, I will arrange for it to be picked up. But the police told us that that gun cannot be subjected to DNA because it was exposed to sun and of course rain for 10 days. Why did it take the police 10 days to pick the gun? Why didn't they actually arrest that of their witness who actually hide the gun for concealment? All of these whys, I want you to help me understand it in the context of the law. And of course, this question I have, can the DIG, the National Security Advisor, and Sankare be superior to court to justify what they had said in their press conference and those allegations that are now proven by the court to be all fabricated stories and lies? Is that a possibility?
Okay. So basically, I'm going to try to answer these questions without being prejudicial to the case. I'm working on an article, and I'm going to read some of my pointers. So basically, the first major thing that I want us to look at, and this has got nothing to the case, so I'm not going to get into anything to the determinant of the case, but we'll just look at just factual public information that's out there. And the first thing that we need to establish is that, one, is the lack of forensic evidence linking Bojang to the crime. There's none. Okay?
Right.
The alleged weapon was not subjected to DNA or fingerprint analysis. Okay?
Right.
So basically, the prosecution said that the weapon that was found in September of 2022 had already been exposed to the heat Okay?
Yeah.
Somebody is saying they can't hear me properly.
I can hear you clearly.
So they said it has already been exposed to the heat, and therefore they couldn't do any fingerprint testing on it. So basically, one thing is clear is that there's a lack of forensic evidence. There's lack linking Ousainou Bojang to the crime. I'm just giving you the points I've documented. Two, there is no direct connection between Ousainou and the weapon. None. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever linking Ousainou to that weapon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And during cross-examination, it was established in court that there was nothing linking him to that weapon because there was no fingerprinting done absolutely on that weapon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the third issue is that eyewitness accounts have placed Ousainou somewhere else other than the crime scene where the crime was committed. Okay? And these are 7 witnesses that denied that Ousainou was there. 7. So the first point that I got, which I'm preparing my article to write, maybe one day when the case is out, like I'm just writing it slowly because I don't want to forget it. So the first point is the lack of forensic evidence, anything linking Ousainou to the crime by way of DNA testing or forensics of any sort, fingerprinting. The second thing is the weapon itself. There is nothing that is linking Ousainou to that weapon. Mm-hmm. Okay? No fingerprinting done, nothing on it because they said that the weapon was exposed to heat and therefore they couldn't do fingerprinting. Right? That was clear. There was no suggestions from the prosecution that weapon would be sent to a fingerprint lab somewhere with Ousainu's prints or whatever. It wasn't done. Period. And then, of course, you have the eyewitness accounts. 7 witnesses. You understand? No, I do not say the case should be stopped at no case submission. The case should not have gone this far. Anyway, so there's none. Okay? And then the most, for me, and I don't know, sometimes I'm tempted to say that when I did that write-up, I don't know, I'm wrong because I never spoke to Lawyer Lamin Dabo since then. I just have this firm belief in my heart that he read my write-up and decided not to explore the route he was taking. Because the route he was taking was to actually request for an expert witness to give testimony, and that is a person who's got knowledge with mobile phone, to open the mobile phone. And I don't know if you remember, because I tagged you on that post, and I wrote an article saying that the defense had no business in helping the prosecution to prove its case, because the prosecution has stated that they've got the mobile phone that has got incriminating evidences linking Ousainou to the crime. And all of a sudden, this mobile phone, whilst it was in the custody of the police, was formatted. So I didn't quite understand the rationale, both in law and factually, in terms of producing evidence, in terms of leading evidence, why LJ at that time wanted to call an expert, because that was helping the prosecution.
Maybe because I am not a lawyer, because that was also like an opinion from my end that no, we want to open this phone because I know what was in the phone. So for me, it was like, you know what? Everything in this phone explicitly or clearly put this guy out of this case, because we know the reason why they formatted the phone, because they did not want those informations to come out. But of course, like you said, the onus of, proving that this person did this lies on the state. Yes. But of course, for me, it was about, we need to prove that these people are lying.
The burden at that point and with that issue did not shift.
Yeah, so we
it
should
remains
not really
squarely
bother,
in the domain of the prosecution. They claim that they've got a mobile phone. That is why it is being exhibited in the first place.
And you know, I was even telling them that they got to bring Mama's audio in court because we have it. And he said, no, we don't need to. They claim that he killed the cops and they had the audio and they came back to court and said the audio is lost. So why should we bother about it?
So the following sitting, when I saw Ellis withdrew and said he did not want to call anyone again, I was so happy because for me, that was the best route to go through.
Without an understanding, I was agitated here. I was like, what's going on with this guy? Like, he needs to open his phone. He needs to bring Mama's audio.
Let me run down
videos.
I hope you're taking note of my pointers.
Of course.
The other issue, which is crucial and key, is the boots.
Yeah.
I think the first thing the prosecution should have done was to ensure such crucial evidence would not fall flat in court.
Yeah.
You know the O.J. Simpson case?
Of course, the gloves.
If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah.
And I'll say the same thing. If the boots
don't
don't fit, you must acquit.
Right.
Because after everything else has fallen flat, everything else has failed, the prosecution had such a difficult job in proving this case because there was no forensic evidence. There was no direct connection to the weapon used. 7 witnesses are saying that this person was not there at the crime scene. A crucial key evidence, the mobile phone that you claim had all these things that you were coordinating, suddenly was formatted in the custody of the prosecution. It was not in the custody of Ousainou. And then suddenly you come to court and you say that this is his boot. And that guy tried that thing in open court and it wouldn't fit.
And as well, the incriminating audio was lost again.
No. And then you have the issue of the confession in 2 parts. One is a confession that the accused person in open court has denied is his confession. That in law is solid, especially within the Gambian context with regards to the evidence, because you must stop at that point to establish the veracity of that claim. It's my confession, and that's why it's called a confession, and that's why the confession must be voluntary, and it must be done in the presence of an independent witness. Now, an independent witness is not a person that is always called by the police to be an independent witness, because that person is not an independent witness anymore.
This guy is picked and driven by the police. They go pick him in their
so
vehicle
that
and
is
take
not
him to
an independent witness.
And you know, there is another funny thing about the independent witness. He said he came to anti-crime at midnight because somebody had a vehicle case, and then he came there to actually testify. And then he entered through the back door. Who enters the anti-crime through the back door at midnight? But who comes to actually testify in a particular, vehicle problem at anti-crime at midnight? Anti-crime is not a police station. So all of these things did not add up. But for me now,
it's simple.
Tell me, motive, because I think motive is something very important in law, right?
So it's simple because the confession too fell flat, because Ousainou denied ever making that confession. Okay?
Right.
So there's no confession. And then the prosecution decided to introduce new evidence at a very crucial point of the case, and the court rejected it.
Right.
Because the prosecution wanted to call a cobbler to come and do measurements or do some drama in court, but obviously the court rejected that. So on the weight of the evidence, what the court will look at is that shoe, that boot that did not fit.
Yep.
Okay? And what else? What else did I write?
That is something I really want you to talk about, because most times I think if something like that happened, you establish the motive of why this person would do this. Right?
Oh no, and there was another part that I got, and that is the issue that I found quite interesting, was with the diary from the police station. It contained no letterhead. It contained nothing linking it to the police station. It contained anything that shows it's something of authority. So that was quite interesting. I got that on my notes. So basically, I mean, you know the legal ground known in criminal cases, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
The average man with all these things would definitely have a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And the slogan, the maxim is, it is better for 10 guilty men to go scot-free than to have one innocent man go behind bars for a crime he did not commit. So really, without saying much, without saying anything about the case or trying to do anything that is prejudicial to this case, just looking at the facts of what is available in the public domain, I do not conceive, I do not understand, and I am waiting to see how a court of law will find such a person guilty for such an offense.
That's right. Whereas not guilty, who killed the cops? Becomes a very relevant question in contemporary politics.
That becomes a very relevant question. But then that is where it will become interesting, because certain premature utterances of people in power and people around the corridors of power will have to be scrutinized, and it would be taken into account, because those utterances were absolutely premature, but then it has all turned out to be false. Were they politically motivated? Was it a premeditated act? We don't know. But I think the concentration now should be on seeing what the verdict would be with regards to this issue. And of course, by extension, if all of these things have fallen flat from Ousainou, then you know that Mama Jabi cannot be an accomplice to something that never took place or never happened. So hers automatically would fall flat as well. But let's look at how it will play out.
That sums it up, man. You know, I'm smiling in my heart.
Yeah. I did document it because I find it quite interesting. So I just had bullet points where I documented all these things. But I think it's 1:45 a.m. here.
It's late.
And we've been here for about 3 hours, even though we have a lot of people still viewing. But
we got to run out.
I think we'll call it today. By the way, I think I'm appearing on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on Friday.
Beautiful. I'll be listening to that.
Yeah, so I'm quite looking forward to that, actually, to be honest. So
hopefully they should have you on the, you know, your I don't know, is it for people or by the people, whatever? They should bring you in with Batambedu.
I don't think they want me on there, though. Woo, boy.
We would advocate for you to be on that show, and of course, probably they can call Batambedu. Oh, I know Batambedu watches that show, and then but a lot of things he had said there. So you should go and really put those people, of course, in their right place, and as well tell us what exactly did happen. Because at one point too, I was a little bit like, there is a lawyer that I had a lot of respect for, but on that day I was like, oh my man, there was this lawyer that actually called into the program and was.
Oh, that was Sadio Barros.
And all of a sudden, you started with praising Batambedu. I was like, every Gambian is disgusted by what is happening. You're wishing him good luck at the ICJ. And then at some point, I was like, maybe because of the comments, he started changing his tone of questioning. But of course, independent thinking persons like you who do not care about what another person, you know, picks up from what you're saying, so long it's true, you don't really care about affiliations here and there. The truth is the truth. I think, you know, that platform should definitely have you on board, and then you should have a conversation with them. But it's good that you're having time with Peter, and you know, a lot of conversation is going on and a lot of things are being said. You know, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
absolutely. To be honest, I'm very excited with the coffee time with Peter Gomez on Friday. I'm really, really excited, especially, you know, with this whole Janneh Commission, and I'm really excited. To be honest, I am excited.
it's quite late, my man. So, you know, have a wonderful night. It was good having this conversation. The last part made it for me, you know. That's a case that I'm very much passionate about. I thought I was going to really, you know, get a lot of energy towards it, but it's like it kind of got me relaxing now. It's like, you know
Yes,
what?
there are
No,
elements.
I
There are
know this
elements to
dude.
a crime. There are elements to fulfill.
Yeah, I know this dude. I grew up with this kid in the hood. So, you know, in as much as adulthood, people go by their businesses, but you cannot just jump one day and tell me the kid I grew up in the hood is a rebel. You know,
I
I don't
personally
understand that.
believe
I don't understand
whoever
that.
did that killing was a skilled person.
That's a top sniper. And you know that the lady, the surviving lady, said that they had no problems with anybody, they had no confrontation with anybody, and all of a sudden she just saw herself in the hospital because she was just hearing gunshot. So that means this person was like a sniper, and then somebody with the name Pate Jallo, whom UDP is complaining about, probably just got killed. Whatever that is, either you know premeditated or probably planned within or around. We don't care about that. One thing I know is this dude they said killed the cops really is not a rebel, does not work in Brikama area council, and whatsoever they put up that you know he you know he kind of was at the UDP court case. He's not involved in any politics, and even the person in hoodie came out to say, I am the person in hoodie, so I am not this person. So at the end of this case, whatever the decision is, government still have the honors to tell us why they told us that he was the guy in hoodie and he works for UDP and he works in Brikama council.
As all governments would do, they would say it was wrong intelligence.
From who? when Jammeh wanted to do bad to you know Sana Sabali and other people, what did he say? They came to his office and they froze. But at the end of the day, the truth came out. This regime will not remain forever. That is why the good thing to do is when you are giving the opportunity to lead your people, it's a privilege. It's not about how to entrench yourself, because if you start thinking about you know negative ways of remaining in power, you're just messing that power for yourself. Look at this Janneh Commission. If, for instance, when the change happened, you know, some of us saw some of you in key government positions, we were like, you know what, things would work. But you see other people, the likes of Batameri, who are trying to mess up people unreasonably. Where are they today? They got more. See, I don't know. At the end of the day, human being, whatever you are doing, do it to the best of your ability and do it with a clean heart. And of course, don't jump into people's business without having clear information about it.
I think it's a matter of jealousy sometimes. I think Gambians are our own worst enemies. I don't think the average Gambian does not want to see a Gambian that does not you know it's not engaged in boot licking. I can't lick anybody's boot. I don't have the temperament to. So I think God just created me differently. But like you said, in the final analysis, it's only the truth that survives. You know, it's hard, it takes time, but it's only the truth that survives. And I personally believe that, you know, it's only the truth that lasts. You know, it might be difficult, it might be hard, but it's only the truth that lasts. But one thing is clear, and that is the average Gambian is being enlightened. The average Gambian is being awakened. And it is not as easy to gaslight Gambians as it used to be. Right. So I believe that 2026 would be a very decisive moment in our nation's political history, because it's going to be a choice between good and bad. That's exactly what it's going to boil down to.
You know, today, like I am moving into a new project in I work, and then you know my director called me and said to me, swim or sink.
Yeah, that's what.
And I was like, in 2026, but again, it's going to be that for Gambia.
Again, a caution would be the trajectory has changed. So it is not going to be anybody but like it was anybody but Jammeh.
Right.
The trajectory has significantly changed. And anything but Jammeh will never metamorphose to anything but Barrow.
Very well indeed.
So the average Gambian needs to understand, and political leaders will need to understand that it is not just about mere promises. And yes, sometimes it is good to point out the inconsistencies and the failure of the current government, but you cannot continue to do this without offering an alternative solution. And I think most of the time our political class, our political actors, concentrate more on the failures of the government. They poke holes on issues of governance, but they don't offer tangible solutions. And I think the average Gambian is fed up because the people are not stupid, and they can tell what is wrong and what is not going right in the country, because at the end of the day, they bear the greatest responsibility when it comes to shortfalls of issues of government or basic amenities that they lack.
Right.
So telling the average man that butter is expensive, that bread is expensive, is not something they don't understand. It's something they know. Because whilst the political class can afford to have bread, they struggle to put bread on the table.
Right.
So it's a matter of preaching to the choir. Now, what we need to hear is how these individuals, these political actors, can start to speak to the heart of the average Gambian by letting them know that they have the ability, they have the capabilities, they have the wherewithal to make sure that bread becomes cheaper and affordable, so that putting bread on the table is not going to be a difficult and hard situation. So it is not only about wanting to know what the government is doing wrong, it's wanting to know what they can do better.
And evidently in the Gambia, everybody in one way or another tells you, we know things are not going right.
Yes.
But who will make it right?
That is the
Who
question.
will make it right is the question that needs to be answered before 2026.
That is the question.
And then the political class at this point in time definitely need to pay attention to that, because these are perfect moments to basically look at things that are happening within our country that everybody knows that this is not desirable, but who next? Which is very, very important. I told a lot of people that, no one person can claim that, oh, we removed Jammeh. That was a combination of a perfection of different factors. But because of a lot of things that were happening. And then at the end of the day, it was more about he's got to go. But now it's about we know you are not good and we don't want to repeat he's just got to go. It's got to be somebody who places something before our eyes, and we believe that this
I think also there's a disadvantage. This is going to be my last point, and then I'm going to make sure by 1 o'clock we're out of here. I think we've been here like 3 hours. We started at 10. It's like almost 1 o'clock.
Wow.
We started at 10 my time, 9 o'clock Gambian time. It should be about 6 minutes to 12 in Ghana. But one last point I wanted to make is that a lot is at stake, because I don't know what's going to happen, because like they say, a day in politics could be like 1,000 years. 1,000 years in politics can be like a day. Your political opponent or enemy today can turn to be your best friend. But what I do know is that with the way the coalition really performed and how it fizzled out, I do not think that there's going to be any trust in establishing another coalition.
Evidently so.
Because the constitution is very clear. And when the Gambian public go to vote, they vote according to the dictates of the constitution and not the promise that was made by a political aspirant.
Rightly so.
So there has to be, first, a foundational basis of trust established between the individuals that would form and come up with a coalition. So between the coalition partners. But then, because of how the coalition how everything that surrounded the coalition played out, I don't think there's that trustworthiness with anything of such. So it's going to be a very, very interesting time. But again, like I said, let's see. A lot of things are playing. A lot of things are on the works. So let's see how it all plays out. But
it's a make
Omar,
it or break it period. So it was nice talking to you, man. You have a wonderful night.
have a good night. And thanks to all our audience. It's been amazing so far. And we thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we come your way another time, you know, hopefully soon. You know,
Yeah,
a lot of things are in the offing, a lot of
talk.
things are happening.
All right.
Have a good night, bro.
Good night.